So glad you guys are here. You know, Easter is a time that is kind of the central confession of the Christian church, that we celebrate the fact that Jesus Christ died, was buried, and rose again for us. And that's a cool thing, man. If you think about it just a little bit. I'm gonna tell you the story today of a little girl in Mark chapter 5, and she's 12, and she dies in this little story, and Jesus comes on the scene, and you can imagine what that would be like as parents to lose your child at 12. And he makes what seems to be an insensitive remark in this little room where the mom and dad are over the Bible, over the bed. And it says in Mark chapter 5, 39 and 40, when he came in, he said to them, "Why make this commotion and weep? The child is not dead, but sleeping." And they ridiculed him to scorn and to laugh, man. And so Jesus rolls in. We'll pick up the story up at the front in just a minute, but he rolls in, and man, you can just imagine the grief and the heartache and the break of losing a child. And Jesus rolls in and says, "You know what, man? She's just asleep, man. She's not dead." And they are, "Oh, no, are you kidding me, man? How can you be so insensitive to say that very thing, man?" Now, my vocation is around funerals. I've done, in the last 35 years, hundreds of funerals, man. Some of them just tear you apart, man. Unexpected funerals. What's hardest for me, and I don't understand it, I really don't. I don't understand God in this little deal here, is when I have to do or officiate the funeral of a child. Man, it is just hard. And I've done the funerals of children that have only lasted or lived for a few days. I did a funeral one time for a little 3-year-old boy that was killed by a drunk driver. And you roll into that house with those people, and they ask you why. I don't have words for it, man. The death of a child or a small child is way, way difficult. Not only that, but they're going to blame Jesus for the child's death. Because it took him a minute to get there, and had he not delayed, the child probably would have lived. And so the dad and the people that are around this little house can't believe that Jesus took his time to get there. And you know, sometimes for me, and I don't know what it's like for all of you, but there's sometimes I feel like, you know, God, why are you waiting on this? Or why did that death happen? Or that relationship go south? Or fill in the blank with why you have a hard time with God's delays sometimes. And if I stretch my faith a little bit, you know, I'm thinking, God, why does bad things happen to good people? Why delay any kind of judgment or punishment for people like this? And so you're going to see in this story, just like you guys in this room and me, you got a choice to love God or to hate God. tries to follow him or say, man, he's really, really not God. Now, to me, this is one of the most bizarre encounters in Scripture, and so let me work you through it. There's 5 quick things that I want to put some handles on, and we'll take it from there. Mark chapter 5 and verse 22 to 23. And behold, one of the rulers of the synagogue came. Now, ruler of the synagogue, Jairus is his name, important guy, all right, by name. And when he saw him, he fell at his feet, and he begged him earnestly, saying, my little daughter lies at the point of death. Come and lay your hand on her, that she may be healed, and she will live. And so, here's a guy, if he's a ruler of the synagogue, he's connected, right? I mean, he's just connected. He's rich. He's got people that work for him. He's been able to shell out the coin to get the best physicians, doctors, everybody. And somebody in that little room must have whispered to him, yo, Jairus, I think we've done everything that we can do, man. I don't think there's anything else, man, that we can do. Jairus' vocation would be critical of Jesus. He and his colleagues would be critical of the little maverick that Jesus was, how he came on the scene, how he said he was better than Abraham, or he was equal or better than Moses. All that stuff would be just cheesing off the Jewish people. And so, in his private life and his vocation, he and his pals would be saying, oh man, what gives with this dude, man? But desperation kicks in. He feels like, maybe if I can get around the little miracle worker dude, maybe there's something that could happen. And he comes, and you do the same, man. If it was your daughter, and Jesus was popping, you would do whatever you could to save your child. And he searches everywhere, and he finds Jesus. And he falls at his feet, and he begs him to roll to his house and to be by his daughter, knowing if I could just get her in front of Jesus, everything would be okay. Check out verse 24. So Jesus went with him. I'll stop right there. In desperation, he falls at his feet, and Jesus is like, okay, man, I'll go. I'll go with him. It's cool. And I couldn't imagine the elation and the, no way. Really, you do it? Yeah. And then that little verse closes, and a great multitude followed him and throned around him. They surrounded all around him. So you can imagine, so he falls at his feet, and he gets them to agree to come, and they are surrounded by people. And that was all throughout the Bible. Jesus has got these crowds that follow him. Some, like, they want to do the little genie thing and pop them out of a bottle and see what they do. Some just want to follow him, but they are surrounded by people. If I'm Jairus, man, I'm like, out of the way, please. Just move, man. It's my daughter. We got to get. I could care less, man. I would do anything that I could for my girls, man. Anything that I could. And just pushing them and all of that. And then check this out in verse 25. In that crowd, now a woman had a flow of blood for 12 years. So falls at his feet. He says yes. They're trying to get out. And in that crowd is a woman that has a flow of blood for 12 years. It's a menstrual irregulation for 12 years. Now, y'all aren't this way, but the Jewish people are funky about that stuff. They even believe that, like, if a shadow from someone that was ill or whatever was cast over you, you could get the same illness. So for 12 years, this lady in the crowd can't go to church because she's deemed unclean. Her family would have ostracized her to a little colony of people that were unclean. And so for 12 years, no social stuff, no hugs, none of that stuff, right? 12 years. And so Mark chapter 5, 26, let me read this a little while. And this woman had suffered many things from many physicians. She had spent all that she had and was no better. When she heard about Jesus, she came behind him in the crowd and touched his garment. For she said, if I may only touch his clothes, I should be made well. Immediately the fountain of blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed from the affliction. And Jesus, immediately knowing himself that power had gone out from him, turned around in the crowd and said, who touched my clothes? But his disciples said to him, you see the multitude thronging around you, and you say, who touched me? So let me paint the picture for you. It's pretty simple in Scripture, but here we go. Jairus comes, finds him, falls on the feet. His daughter's dying. And there's a lady that has an issue of blood for 12 years. And she crawls and is able to touch like the little hem of Jesus' garment. And all of a sudden, in all of this crowd of people, Jesus says, who touched me? And the disciples are like, you joking? What do you mean, who touched you? In 1978, I went and watched Michigan State Spartans in East Lansing win the Big Ten title in football. A buddy of mine played on the team and was tied with a guy named Kirk Gibson, so we were hanging out with Gibby and doing all that stuff. And when they won the Big Ten title against Iowa, we rushed the field. And I have to tell you, if there was a moment in my life that I was afraid that I was not going to make it, it was then. The people were so packed around me. And next to me, and my buddy Ray Lesky, there was a girl that was on the ground that I just knew would be trampled to death. Man, I just knew it. I couldn't even move to help her. And in the meantime that I'm there, I'm about the 10-yard line, they're pulling down the goalposts. And as the goalposts come down, I was right in the, dead center, right in the middle of the goalpost. It had to definitely, this one dude, I'm not trying to laugh at it, but it had to waste his shoulder. And as the posts came down. Now, if we would have gotten in the car and I would have said to someone, who touched me? They would have found humor in the fact that me being a crowd of people said to them, who touched me? But Jesus feels this power, this virtue, leave his body and says, who touched me? Then it says, and he looked around to see who had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what had happened to her, came, fell down before him, and told him the truth. And he said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction. This is what I love about Jesus, man. And this is good for anybody in this room, including me, when I question my faith. The word daughter is only used one time by Jesus in the Bible. And it's right here. It's it. One time in the Bible. And it means precious child. So this chick, whoever she is, with the issue of blood, says, just touch his garments. I'm going to be like, who was it? She comes clean. Hey man, it was me. And here's the thing. What if I could just touch you, man? I could be made up. Didn't matter about how unclean she was. We parallel with it doesn't matter how much you've sinned or how far you think you are from God. You touch his garment today. He'll make you whole. That's just what Jesus does. Great story, right? I mean, it's just a really cool story. But what about Jared? What about his daughter? What about this delay? What about, like, that's cool, man. She touched him. That's cool. She comes forward, tells the truth about it. All of that stuff is really, really cool. She's worried that an unclean woman's going to touch a holy God. All this stuff. I get it. I get it. But how is that making this dude feel as saying, come on, let's go. Let's get to my daughter, man. Would you please, let's go. Why all of this stuff? Check out Mark 5 and verse 35. And while Jesus was still speaking, some came from the ruler of the synagogue's house who said, your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further? Could you imagine if you're a parent and you hear those words? You know, doctors practice this thing called triage, right? So a lot of you guys know in September 2017, I almost died. It started up in Alaska. I was doing some fishing with some guys, and then I got an abscess on my liver. And that abscess somehow pushed 2 liters of fluid into my right lung. I couldn't even breathe. So they wanted to send me, they wanted to life flight me to Anchorage, Alaska. And I'm thinking, you know, man, if I'm going to fly anywhere, I want to fly back to Kansas City, man. And I want to be around my family. Because if I'm going to go down for the count, man, I want to see them, not somebody up in Anchorage, right? And so I get to Kansas City, and a couple days later, man, I'm in the hospital. And there's this guy that did 2 open heart surgeries. James Miller's his name. At 10 o'clock at night, he gave me a thoracotomy. And it's a 9-inch incision in my back, and they came in and they cleaned out all the goop and all of the stuff that had coagulated inside of my lung. And everybody I've seen since that time, the infectious disease doctor, the lung doctor, whoever it is, they've all said to me the same thing. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. But wouldn't it be crazy, man, if my doc is like, you know what, man, I know you're pretty sick, but man, this dude needs some stitches. I'm going to take care of that. Somebody sprained their ankle. I'm going to kind of take care of all of those little different things, and you can just kind of wait. And it seemed like that in this little passage of Scripture, man. Here's this lady. She got an issue of blood. Can it be healed at a different time? And while he's taking care of all of that, his daughter dies. She's at the doorstep of death, man, and it's going to roll down. Just think of how he felt. So watch what the passage says. Verse number 36. And as soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said to the ruler of the synagogue, don't be afraid, man, only believe. Then came they to the house of the ruler of the synagogue, and they saw the commotion and those that wept and loudly. And he came in and he said to them, why this commotion? Why weep? The child's not dead. And they really killed him. But when he had put them all outside, he took the father and the mother of the child. And those who were with him, they entered in to where the child was living. And then he took the child by the hand, and he said to her, Talitha cumi, which is translated, little girl, I say to you, arise. So he gets there, and he grabs her hand. And when he says this, Talitha come, the come part is you could arise. The Talitha part is honey. He's not going to like lord over her. He's not going to yell it all out. He's not going to, hey, I command you, come on. He just grabs her by the hand and he says to her, hey, listen, man, just arise. It's going to be cool. And because I feel like death is just like a short nap. And God grabs you by the hand and he says, come on. So you go back to 2 years ago, and the hero of my life was my father. And at the hospice house over here, I rolled into his last few moments. And he's waited up all night for me to get there. I know, man, he's morphined out, all that. I come in the morning. And I grab his big old noggin in my hands. And I kiss him about 10 or 11 times. Just kiss him. Tell him that I love him. I'm proud of him. And I say to him, it's okay, Pops. You don't have to fight any longer, man. It's okay. It's all right. And 2 breaths. And a smile. And he's gone. It was over. It's done. And it was like at that time, I just feel like God took my dad's hand and said, it's okay, honey. Come on. Come with me. I think it's just like a short little nap. And the Bible says in Mark chapter 5 and verse 42, immediately the girl arose and walked, for she was 12 years of age, and they were overcome with great amazement. That's good, right? You would be too, right? Oh yeah, wow, that's incredible. Amazing. I think there's 5 little things that I could teach you in this story that I think are good for us. This is the first one. To Jesus, death is as easy to fix as waking up someone from a nap. It's easy, man. What scares us most is death, or the death of someone that we love. It just scares us, man. It freaks us out. And just like the little girl, how he sits at the bedside with her, I believe that when that happens, that's exactly what Jesus does. He comes and grabs the hand, figuratively speaking, in the first voice, in the first face that you see in eternity is his. So I know in our world, there are 2 views of this. I get it, right? I understand. One of the, I think probably a predominant view that we live with and that we're around is a view that we were formed by a random collusion of particles, and we became millions of years ago by a bang thing or whatever. So I went to the leading dude that believes in evolution and skeptic of everything that I'm talking about today. Everything. And this is what Byron Nelson says. We need to have the courage to embrace the notion that we need not console ourselves with Christmas carols and everything that you love will die to death, because everything that you love will die to death of the universe. No heroism, no sentimentality can preserve any life beyond the grave. I'm a skeptic of the Bible, of Jesus, of the resurrection, of what you're preaching about. All our labors, all of our accomplishments are destined to extinguish, and what we need to admit is that we need to live courageously, and then that's it. Just embrace the fact that there's nothing beyond the grave. That's a good Easter message. No resurrection. But God, in the view of the Bible, has made us eternal beings. Has made us someone that will live forever. C.S. Lewis says, doesn't the fact that we yearn for eternity point to the fact that we were created for eternity? Fish don't complain about being wet because they were designed for water. They complain when they're out of one. That's when they flop around, which would be their version of complaining. And we are designed for eternity. It's why we flop around in the face of death, because we're not designed for it. We're designed for eternity. So when death starts to happen, we as believers in the resurrection know that we have eternal life. The second thing is Jesus' delay is not inconsistent with his love. Jairus could not fathom the fact that he took his time to get there. He just could not believe it. And Jesus knew that the delay, it meant nothing to him. Nothing whatsoever. Because death to him was as easy as waking up somebody from a short nap. And the picture that we'll get out of the resurrection of Christ, so when you talk about the resurrection, this is what you're talking about. Jesus came, he died, and he was buried for your sins, for everybody's sins. And what God says throughout his Bible is he calls you to salvation. He says, check it out, man. You need to be saved, man, so you can experience my Father, heaven, eternity. And that's why I lived here. And that's why they had a conversation in eternity's past that Jesus would come down and be the conduit between God the Father, if you may, through his death. And so you need to believe him as your Lord and Savior. And so that's what Jesus is talking about with the resurrection. That's what Jesus is talking about when he lays out all of these different things. And he says, someday I'm going to restore all of you, all of this world, into who that I am. And this is how Paul says it. Paul says in 2 Corinthians 4:17 and 18, for our light affliction, which is but for a moment, is the working for us far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory, while we do not look at the things which are seen, but the things which are not seen. For the things which we are seeing are temporal, but the things we can't see, that's what you got to bang in. And so Paul understands the pain, the heartbreak, the death. And he says, listen, man, in this life, what's greater than that is the things that are going to be in eternity. And those are the things that we have to grapple with or think about when we talk about the scriptures and we talk about the people in the Bible and the way that they live their life. But listen, at the moment you step in eternity, the weight of the things of this world, gone. It's over. Everything you've been through, everything you're going to do, it's all gone. And what happens is, I'm not trying to minimize. Right? So there's people in this room that have far more pain. People in this room that are facing stuff that's a lot harder than me right now. I get it. I understand it. And I would never, ever, in circumstances and things, financially, whatever it is, relationship, whatever you're facing, I'm not trying to minimize that. What I'm trying to do today is to maximize Jesus. And that's the biggest thing that we as believers can bank on. Is Jesus got our back, and he just does. And so, as you come through and you see the girl, the issue of the blood, and all of those things, you can begin to understand the plan for return. Number 3, Jesus both offers and requires more than you could ever imagine. So when this happened to the dude with his daughter, he thought she was going to just be healed. There was a resurrection. That's a miracle operating right there, okay? There's a resurrection. And to the girl with the issue of blood, she had no clue, man, what Jesus would do for him. Number 4, personal stature contributes nothing to overcoming death. So, watch. Everybody in this room is going to die. It's just going to happen. It's part of it. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how well connected you are. How much coin you have in the bank. Jairus was the best of the best, man. He had it all. As a ruler of the synagogue, he made it to the top of his profession. It was there. the chick with the issue of the blood, she was the worst of the worst. He was rich, she was poor. He had servants, she was a servant. The gift came to both of them. So around a little room today, it doesn't matter how well you're connected or how bad you feel like your life is. It doesn't matter. Christ wants to come in and do something big time for you. Isaiah chapter 64 lays it all out really well. But we are all like unclean things, and our righteousness is like filthy rags. And so I don't want your righteousness. You know what, man? I'm not worried really about I would be more worried about your righteousness or feeling like you've got it all set with God than I would be with you saying, man, you know, I'm such a sinner, man. I feel like with a lot of us, our righteousness gets in the way more than our sin gets in the way. And number 5, our victory over death came only at great personal cost to him. When he cleansed that girl, he felt her uncleanness leave his little body. And what Jesus did for all of you in this room, and for me in this room, was he took on, or he bore, the uncleanness of our sin on the cross so we could have a relationship with Christ. And the Bible says in Isaiah that if we reason together through the scriptures we talk about, that's something that you have to grapple with. That's something that you have to think about. Is, do I have a personal relationship with God? Do I have a relationship with him that I believe in the death and the burial and the resurrection? And I've accepted him as my Lord and Savior because he took on your sins on that cross so you could have a relationship with his Father. And that's what we have celebrated for the last 2,000 years. So it doesn't matter if you're the chick or the dude that has all of this crud in their life that you've done, and you keep that from allowing you to have a relationship with God. Or you're that dude or that chick that says, man, I got it, man. I'm good. I can work my way to a place where I can just be good and have a relationship with God. It's not like that, man. According to God's economy, you come to him in faith and you accept him as your Lord and Savior. So let me pray, and you guys can go eat lunch, all right? Lord, we love you today, and we thank you for the privilege it is to celebrate Easter, the fact of your resurrection, and that you died for us and you were buried and rose again. And like the daughter of Jairus, or the girl with the issue of blood, each and every one of us in this room, it really doesn't matter where we've been or how good we are. We need to surrender our hearts. We need to believe you as Lord and Savior. We need to confess you, that you did die, that you were buried, and you rose again. And we're so, so thankful for that very thing. And help us to land there. Help us to really think through that. Help us to contemplate where we're at with you. Today's a great way to do that. Today's a great day. So we thank you for the creek and the folks that are here today.
death and burial and resurrection for my sins and the sins of the folk that could hear my voice. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.